So we're going to get started here, and what we're going to do first is we're going to add a plane to our scene, and also we're going to add the object as well. And we're going to make sure that this plane is overlapping the object, so whenever it drops into the plane, it's small enough to fit in the cloth. Okay, so next is what we're going to do is we're going to put the plane in edit mode, right click, subdivide, open up this menu, 100, select everything again, subdivide one more time. Now we have a pretty dense plane here. Okay, after that, get this object, we want it to drop into this plane, so we'll have to use I. When you have the object selected at frame 0, and then let's skip over to maybe frame 80, and at this point the object should go through the plane, and we're going to select I again. Now when we animate this, the perfume bottle goes through the plane, but nothing's going on yet. So what we have to do at this point would be to select the plane, go into your modifiers, add modifier, type in cloth, go into your settings, and we're going to go to collision, turn on self collision. We're going to drop this down a bit. This is pretty much the distance between the object and the plane, how far apart before it react to each other. So next we will go to the fill weight, turn off gravity, go back up, select the object, turn on collision, turn on collision, and go back to the plane. This controls the quality of your cloth. Now you can also change the speed of how the cloth is animated. So I'm going to drop it down to maybe a 0.75. You can also change the mass of the cloth, so you can make it lighter, a little bit heavier. Then you can also control the stiffness of the material and also the dampen too. And the dampen pretty much so slowing down the motion between the object and the cloth that you're animating. Now each of these two settings do have 4 different types of springs within it. So you have the tension, the compression, the structural, shear, bending. So each 4 of these can be tweaked within the main branch of the stiffness and dampen, but just keep in mind that in this diagram it kind of dive deeper into how these 4 different types of springs operate within Blender. Each spring can be controlled independently. So go through each one, figure out what you're going for, and after you're done, bake it. So for this first instance, I'm going to bake the default setting without really changing much, just so you can see the result you get. And then I'm going to do another bake where I'm going to change some settings and try to get a different look. And in this part, I'm going to add a subdivision just to kind of smooth out that cloth quality. And once you add that subdivision, you can shade smooth to polish up the look. add a new material. And you know, you can change it to whatever color you want, but depending on what type of material, you could, you know, make it a glossy, or you could create a more rough looking material. But let's see something here. Let's add a magic texture, and then add that to the bump. Okay, and then actually before we actually get started, let's make sure that we have UV unwrapped this plane. Okay, and then Control T. Select UV, and we can change the scale. And for this to be converted properly, you need a bump. And then that bump goes to the height. And let's decrease the strength here. Increase the scale to the desired look. So how about this? Let's zoom in to maybe about there. Let's add a camera. Right. The camera selected. Control Alt 0. View. Camera's view. Hold Shift. I'm just gonna pan this out just a tad bit, maybe about there. Yeah. Okay, let's see the logo. And the fabric loaded. Uncheck camera to view. Now wave texture. Increase the scale. About that. Magic texture, wave texture. I want to also add some ambient to it. And then I'm gonna add a ramp, color ramp, and then add a mixed color. So ambient color gonna go to the factor. The color ramp color is gonna go into A. And I'm gonna hover over B, hit E, and then the dropper over the base color. All right, that's gonna copy the same hex over. Now I'm gonna connect that result to the base color, and I'm gonna change this to 32. Mix, multiply, factor to 1. Now a little bit ambient. All right, and then now if this looks good, you can stick with this, and yeah, this will be good enough. You can always change the scale depending on how much detail you want, but I'm gonna go over to I'm gonna add one final touch to this, okay? And it's gonna take a bit of processing power, so if you are concerned, make sure you're saving. How about let me do that right now? And we are, okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add some hair follicles or fabric particles. Fabric hair, like strands of fabric sticking out of the cloth. All right, so how we're gonna get this started is we're going to make sure that, hey, we're selecting the plane, go under to the particle, right, and then hit this plus button. From there, you're going to select hair, hit advance, and then now let me actually back out. Okay, so this is looking a bit crazy here. Okay, so the reason why this is happening is because normally these hair would be sticking against the normal of the plane, and that would be along the Z. But because we have the force field around the object, those hair follicles are attracted to that force field. So what we can do is we can negate that reaction from the hair follicles. So let's go under the particle system, go to fill weight, and you're going to see force. Let's just drop that from 1 to 0. Okay, and with that, now they just spiking up crazy. So we don't want them to be actually this long. That's not what we're going for. We want to go over back to the top of the particle system, and you can decrease the hair length to about 0, and you won't see much, but we're gonna be able to fix that shortly. All right, so let's go down to physics, and we're going to increase the Brownian up a bit. And as you can see right here, you can see that those hair are starting to stick out. Okay, so you could control your Brownian and the damp. You probably want to be in render mode to actually see what it actually looked like rendered, and it looks a bit like, I don't know, too thick to be hair. A hair follicle, like times 100 or 1,000, this is probably what hair looks like, but we don't want it to be this thick. So we want to go down to hair shape, and I'm going to drop this down to a 0.01 or maybe a 0.1. Yeah, 0.1. And it still has like that, the base is thicker and then the tip is a lot thinner. So we could close the tip, it's smaller. So 0.05 or So I'm going to continue to mess around with the settings here, and once I get the right length, the right thickness that I'm looking for, then I'm going to increase the number of fibers on this cloth. Now be careful, because the higher the number, the more performance it's going to take from your computer. So find that right balance, and once you do, that'll be a nice additional detail that you can add to the render. And once you're done, here's what the final look looked like. Thanks for joining me today. If you found this tutorial helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more blended tutorials. Until next time, keep creating.